The B-17 never reached the sky. It was still on the runway at Rattlesden Airfield when it exploded. The engines had been started. The crew had completed every checklist. Fuel tanks were full, bomb bay armed, instruments steady. The pilot advanced the throttles, preparing for departure. Then the aircraft disintegrated. Flames tore through the fuselage with such speed that no one had time to react. Burning fuel cascaded across the hardstand. Metal fragments scattered across the field. The explosion was visible for miles, a pillar of black smoke rising above the quiet farmland of Suffolk. 9 men died before their mission even began. 3 days later, another bomber caught fire during engine run-up. Then another. Command halted operations immediately. Something was killing aircraft before they ever left England. The losses made no sense. The 8th Air Force expected to lose bombers over Germany. Flak, fighters, weather, those were understood dangers. But these aircraft were being destroyed at home, surrounded by mechanics, engineers, and safety inspections. Between January and April of 1944, 72 American bombers were lost on the ground or within sight of their own runways across East Anglia. Official reports blamed mechanical failure, sometimes pilot error. The incidents were documented, filed, and forgotten. But at Rattlesden, the pattern was impossible to ignore. The airfield had been built quickly, carved from farmland to support the expanding air war over Europe. Steel runway matting covered the soil. Rows of curved metal huts housed crews and equipment. Bombers filled every available space, their aluminum surfaces dull beneath layers of exhaust residue and weather. Each aircraft represented immense destructive power and immense vulnerability. The B-17 Flying Fortress was one of the most complex machines ever built at the time. Its 4 Wright Cyclone engines generated enough power to lift 30 tons of aircraft, fuel, bombs, and crew into the stratosphere. Each engine contained hundreds of moving parts. Valves opened and closed thousands of times per minute. Pistons endured enormous pressure. Fuel flowed continuously through delicate systems. Everything had to work perfectly. If anything failed, the result could be catastrophic. The ground crews understood this reality better than anyone. They worked through the night preparing aircraft for morning missions. They tightened fittings, replaced spark plugs, inspected hydraulic systems, and searched for signs of failure. Most had never worked on aircraft before the war. They were farmers, mechanics, factory workers, men who had learned engines through necessity. Now they maintained machines capable of crossing continents and surviving combat. They learned quickly, because mistakes killed people. Before every mission, engines underwent ground inspection. The process followed strict procedure. Engines were started and allowed to stabilize. Oil pressure was verified. Magnetos tested. Throttle advanced to operational range. Held briefly, then reduced. If all readings remained normal, the aircraft was cleared for flight. The entire process lasted only minutes. It was considered sufficient. Until the explosions began. Investigators examined the destroyed aircraft thoroughly. They searched for manufacturing defects, maintenance errors, sabotage, anything that could explain the failures. They found nothing definitive. The engines had passed inspection. The crews had followed procedure. Yet the aircraft still died. Among the ground crews was a mechanic named Dale Vickery. He was 29 years old. Quiet. Methodical. He served as crew chief for a B-17 called Borrowed Time. Dale had grown up in Kansas during the Dust Bowl. His family farm had failed, forcing him to rebuild broken machinery simply to survive. He learned to repair engines not from formal training, but from necessity. He could feel problems others missed, hear irregularities others ignored. When he joined the Army Air Forces, those skills made him valuable. He was assigned to maintain bomber engines, machines far more complex than anything he had known before. He approached them with patience, respect, and attention others sometimes lacked. Dale worked alone most nights. He inspected every component carefully. He kept notes in a small notebook, recording minor irregularities, temperature fluctuations, vibration patterns, subtle changes in engine behavior. Details too small to report, too consistent to ignore. After the explosions began, he started paying closer attention. He observed engine inspections performed by other mechanics. He noticed something. Every inspection followed identical timing. Engines were run briefly, just long enough to confirm operation, then shut down. The procedure assumed that if an engine worked for a short time, it would continue working under greater stress. Dale was not convinced. He understood engines differently. He knew some failures did not appear immediately. Some components weakened gradually. Some defects revealed themselves only after sustained strain. An engine could appear healthy, until it wasn't. He began reviewing maintenance records, comparing inspection durations with engine failures. He noticed patterns others had missed. Aircraft that underwent longer inspections failed less often. Aircraft cleared quickly failed more frequently. It wasn't proof, but it was enough to raise questions. Dale began to suspect something dangerous, something hidden, something that standard inspection simply wasn't designed to find. And he realized that if he was right, dozens of bombers and hundreds of men were already in danger. Standard engine checks were built on assumption. If an engine started cleanly, held steady oil pressure, and responded correctly to throttle, it was considered safe. Mechanics brought the engines up to 1,800 revolutions per minute, moderate power, enough to confirm ignition and fuel delivery. The process lasted only a few minutes. Then the aircraft was cleared, but takeoff demanded far more. When a B-17 lifted from the runway, its engines operated at full power. All 4 Cyclones roared simultaneously, each producing over 1,000 horsepower. Internal temperatures climbed rapidly. Oil thinned under heat. Metal expanded. Mechanical stress multiplied across every moving component. If something was weak, that was when it would break. There was no forgiveness at takeoff speed. A fully loaded bomber weighed nearly 60,000 pounds. If an engine failed at the wrong moment, the aircraft could veer violently, lose lift, or erupt in flames. Pilots had only seconds to react. Many never had the chance. The explosions at Rattles Den all occurred during that transition, from safe ground testing to maximum power. The engines had passed inspection, but inspection had not tested their limits. Dale Vickery began to believe the engines were hiding their failures. He needed proof. On April 12, 1944, he decided to test his theory. The bomber borrowed time, sat waiting for its next mission. Its crew had not yet arrived. The airfield remained quiet, the sky pale with early morning light. Dale climbed into the cockpit. He followed standard startup procedure. One engine ignited, then another, then all 4. The aircraft trembled beneath him as the Cyclones stabilized at inspection power. Oil pressure held steady. Temperatures remained normal. For minutes passed. Under normal procedure, the inspection would end. Dale kept the engines running. 5 minutes. Nothing changed. 6 minutes. Still normal. At 7 minutes, something happened. The number 3 engine began to change tone. The vibration shifted, subtle, but unmistakable. Dale leaned forward, watching the instruments carefully. Oil temperature began rising faster than the others. The tachometer needle flickered slightly. A faint metallic irregularity appeared beneath the steady roar. He shut the engine down immediately. The silence that followed felt heavy. He climbed down from the aircraft and removed the engine cowling. He inspected the internal components carefully, methodically. He found it. A cracked rocker arm. The fracture was small, nearly invisible. It would have passed standard inspection. But under sustained power, it had begun to fail. In flight, it would have broken completely. The engine would have destroyed itself. The aircraft might have exploded. The crew would have died. Dale tagged the engine for repair. Borrowed time never flew that mission. Its crew never knew how close they had come to disaster. One test was not enough. Dale needed certainty. Over the following days, he repeated the extended inspection process on other aircraft. Quietly, carefully, before flight crews arrived. He extended engine run times beyond standard procedure. 8 minutes, 9 minutes, 10 minutes. Most aircraft showed nothing unusual, but some did. One bomber began emitting smoke after prolonged operation. Inspection revealed a failed oil seal, something standard inspection had missed. Another aircraft developed ignition problems after extended engine run. Dale traced the failure to a damaged spark plug component, weakened by heat. Both engines would have failed in flight. Both aircraft were repaired safely on the ground. The pattern was clear. Standard inspections were too short. They confirmed engines could run briefly. They did not confirm engines could survive sustained stress. Dale brought his findings to his commanding officer. He presented maintenance records, documented failures, physical evidence of damaged components. He explained his conclusion simply. Engines needed to be tested longer. His commander listened carefully, then reminded him of procedure. Inspection standards had been established for a reason. Unauthorized testing violated protocol. Dale was instructed to stop. He obeyed officially, but word spread among the mechanics. Other crew chiefs began extending inspections quietly. They discovered similar failures. Hidden defects, weak components, engines that would have failed during takeoff. The mechanics began to understand the truth. They had been clearing aircraft that were not safe. Not because they were careless, but because procedure had not allowed enough time to reveal the danger. Dale had proven something critical. He just needed command to recognize it before more crews died. On April 29, 1944, another bomber exploded. This time it happened at Bassingbourn, less than 10 miles from Rattlesden. The B-17 accelerated down the runway, engines at full power, lifting its enormous weight into motion. Witnesses saw the aircraft begin to rise, then saw the right wing erupt in flame. The bomber rolled violently and crashed beside the runway. 14 men died. Investigators recovered what they could from the wreckage. The No. 3 engine had failed catastrophically. Inside its shattered housing, they found the cause: a fractured rocker arm. The same failure Dale had already discovered. The same defect that standard inspection had missed. The same defect that extended testing would have revealed. Word reached Colonel James Thompson, commander of the 447th Bombardment Group. The next morning, Dale Vickery was summoned to headquarters. He entered the office expecting discipline. Instead, the colonel gave him an order: test every aircraft in the group. Every engine. Extended ground checks. No shortcuts. There were 18 bombers assigned to the group. Dale and the other mechanics worked without pause. Each aircraft underwent prolonged engine testing. Engines ran longer than ever before. Mechanics watched every instrument carefully, listened to every vibration. 17 aircraft passed inspection. One did not. The bomber was named Devil's Advocate. At 9 minutes, its engine began vibrating abnormally. The change was subtle, but unmistakable. Dale shut it down immediately. He began disassembly. Oil was drained. Filters examined. Inside, he found metal particles. Tiny fragments. Early stage bearing failure. The engine was already dying. Within days, it would have destroyed itself. The aircraft would have been lost. Instead, the engine was replaced. The bomber returned to service. It flew dozens more missions. Its crew survived the war. The results were undeniable. Extended inspections exposed failures that standard procedure had missed. Command implemented the change immediately. Engines were tested longer. Mechanics were instructed to observe carefully, to listen, to wait. Failures decreased dramatically. Aircraft that would have been destroyed were repaired safely. Crews that would have died survived. Other bomb groups adopted the procedure. By mid-1944, extended engine checks became official policy across 8th Air Force bomber units. The change was described as a technical improvement. No individual mechanic was credited, but the ground crews knew. They had seen the difference. They had seen aircraft saved. They had seen crews live. Dale Vickery never received formal recognition. He had not sought it. He had simply trusted what he observed. He had listened longer than others. And that patience had saved lives. By war's end, extended engine testing had prevented countless failures. Bombers flew missions safely. Crews returned home. Because one mechanic refused to stop watching. Dale returned to Kansas after the war. He opened a repair shop. He worked on engines, farm equipment, trucks. He lived quietly. Years later, he received a letter from a former bomber pilot. The pilot explained that his aircraft had been grounded after extended engine testing revealed a failing component. The repair had delayed their mission. Other bombers flew instead. Many did not return. The pilot thanked Dale for waiting longer, for finding the defect, for saving their lives. Dale kept the letter in his workshop. He never displayed it. He simply kept it. A reminder. He died in 1987. No medals marked his service. No official record documented his discovery. But his work endured. Modern aircraft inspections still rely on the same principle. Some failures cannot be seen immediately. Some dangers reveal themselves only with time. Dale Vickery never flew into combat. He never dropped bombs. He never fired a weapon. But he saved lives the only way he knew how. By listening carefully, by trusting his instincts, and by waiting 3 extra minutes, long enough to let the truth appear.